Isaac Yoko, Fiscal Analyst, PBO.
Nyango Adera, Parliamentary Budget Office.
Frida Ngari, Media Relations Officer.
Jared Amara, Parliamentary Budget Office.
Regina Mutwiri from the Parliamentary Budget Office.
Millicent Makina, Parliamentary Budget Office.
David Milimu, Hansard.
Oko Simon, Sergeant at Arms.
Good afternoon. My name is Nimrod Ochieng, Audio Officer.
Good afternoon. Danson Kachumbo, Committee Clerk.
Thank you very much, members. And members, as you can see, today we are hosting the National Treasury, led by the Prime Cabinet Secretary, His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, and I will request that Your Excellency, you may introduce your team.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Musalia Mudavadi, acting CS for the National Treasury. I'll request my colleagues to introduce themselves very quickly.
Honorable Chair, honorable members of this committee, my name is Chris Kipto, the Principal Secretary, National Treasury, and we are accompanied here by a large team, and I'll ask them to introduce.
My name is Albert Mwenda, the Director General for Budget, Fiscal and Economic Affairs at the National Treasury.
Bana Dongo, DG Accounting Services, National Treasury.
Good afternoon, honorable members. My name is Agnes Odhiambo, advisor in the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Honorable Chair, honorable members of the committee, my name is Nick Piketty, Secretary, Legislative and Parliamentary Affairs, Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Honorable members, my name is Peter Warutere, Secretary, Strategic Communication in the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary in Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Samuel Okilo, Director of Planning, National Treasury.
Good afternoon. My name is Eunice Kigen, Budget Department, National Treasury.
Good afternoon. John Jera is my name, Director of Planning, Macro and Fiscal Affairs, National Treasury.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Miriam Musyoki. I work under the National Treasury.
My name is Nixon Murathi. I work under the National Treasury.
Good afternoon. My name is Anders Hachi, Press Service from the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Honorable members, Isabella Koge is my name, Deputy Director, Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, again, I want to welcome you to this session. As has been the way we conduct our business, when there is a budget cycle, we are usually very, very busy as the budget committee because we have to listen to all the departmental committees, then representing all the ministries, departments, and agencies of government. And then this process is always integral to the National Treasury. What we do here is very integral to the National Treasury, and that is why the entire process is always very consultative. Previously, we could have an entry meeting with the National Treasury even before we meet all the other MDS and through their departmental committees. But this time, we were very squeezed in regards to time, and we had then to only have one meeting, which is both the entry and the exit meeting, because we purpose to be tabling this report to the floor of the House tomorrow, Tuesday. And therefore, whatever we are doing now is to get feedback from the National Treasury, see what else we need to do together, so that as we table the report tomorrow, it is a report that encompasses our aspirations and the of the government. Members, even before I throw the ball back to the National Treasury, it is important that we all know why we are conducting these meetings, We have been saying it as a ritual to all the people who've been appearing. This is unprecedented, where we are having a supplementary budget barely below a month after we pass the main budget. We are actually having the supplementary budget, but to us, technically, we know it is actually the main budget, because we never had a chance also to implement the budget that we passed and was signed into law by the President and became the Appropriations Act. And therefore, what we'll be doing today, to the benefit of all Kenyans, is actually the main budget. It's only called a supplementary because there is no other semantics for it. Members, we passed a budget of over 4 trillion shillings. We have had now to relook at what we need to do now, because the budget we passed just shy of 4 trillion. It was 4.992 trillion. We had hoped that after passing the expenditure side of the budget, then the budget will be funded. But the Kenyan people told us we need to do something, our things differently. And therefore, we then had to make an arrangement where our revenue side of the budget matches with the expenditure side. Because the revenue raising measures, if they are not there, then it means even the expenditure cannot continue to exist as it was. Therefore, what we are doing is two-way, and will be enumerated better by the National Treasury. It is to borrow slightly more. We had a budget then with a fiscal deficit of 3.83%. Currently, we are now having one before us, which is around 4.2 to 4.3% deficit to GDP ratio. It means we are borrowing slightly more. On the other hand, we have had now to look at ourselves internally and inward, and therefore look at expenditure that we can postpone and others that we could cancel, so that we are able to live in a manner that matches the revenue that we expect. And in that respect then, we have been holding, Your Excellency, meetings with the departmental committees. All of them, without exemption, have had budget cuts. And all of them, I want to appreciate all the members of Parliament through the departmental committees that they are members in, that we have decided, all of us, that these times are different, and therefore we need to think differently. And for the first time, Your Excellency, in my terms in service of Kenyans as an MP, I've never had any other chance where CDF is being cut and there seems to be no one complaining about it. This is the first time I have seen. And we are doing that because we know where we are, and we really need to look at our financials and live within our means. Also, Your Excellency, we are cutting this budget across all levels of government and across all departments of government. When it comes to all levels, because I'm saying that because they have appeared before you came, we are actually looking at the equitable share, which is likely also to have a haircut of 20 billion. The Parliament itself, Parliament is losing 3.7 billion Kenya shillings. And also the national government is losing. Every other person has to contribute to this deficit. As I come to the close, there are things that we have gone through as the Parliament, through the departmental committees, and we feel that as also the representatives of the people of Kenya, even when there is a very, very thin fiscal space, there are things that we have decided as budget committee, representing all the members of Parliament, that even if there is not enough money, there are things that we have decided that we must fund. One of those things, honorable members, is that we have decided, and the Education Committee appeared before us, that the 46,000 JSS interns who have been almost volunteering in our learning institutions, being paid monies that are not commensurate with the work they are doing, that we have to provide monies for their confirmation to permanent and pensionable terms. The second thing that we have looked at as the committee, and we feel it is very important for us to fund, is the UHC staff who have also been in those kind of situations. There are also some other staff within our healthcare who have also been in internships. And we are also looking forward into funding their confirmation into permanent and pensionable. The other thing that we looked at through the Departmental Committee of Agriculture is that we are going to be funding the fertilizer subsidy to a tune of 10 billion Kenya shillings. And on top of that, Your Excellency, also, we purpose also to fund other critical areas. For example, the new KCC. We are providing for them over 2 billion shillings, 1.5 billion shillings, which will be going into stabilizing raw milk prices. When it rains, milk prices go down, and the farmers lose. So we are giving new KCC 1.5 billion Kenya shillings to act as defense for the milk prices when it comes to what the farmers get, so that farmers can get, at the very least, 50 shillings per litre, and therefore we are providing for 53, so that at around 3 shillings, we'll take care of the SACCOs management, and the farmers get their fair share. We have also included monies for coffee, cherry fund, more over 2 billion shillings. We have also provided monies 2 billion to start clearing coffee debts for the coffee farmers. At the same time, we have provided monies for sugar reforms for sugar farmers who have had arrears owed to public factories, and also in terms of technology enhancement within the sugar sector, so that we improve the sugar sector to be sucrose-based other than just weight. There are many things that we have considered, but I want to first stop there, even knowing that, Your Excellency, there are expectations on this committee. We had the Maraga Commission, which went around our security organs. And they have there provided that our security officers deserve an immediate enhancement of their take-home and salaries. We are looking for ways, if it comes, we will be glad that also we honor the task force by seeing what we can do, so that we also incorporate their views in the budget-making process. There are many things which I'm sure you'll be enumerating, and in that respect, I now want to throw the ball to the side of His Excellency Musalia Mudavadi, who is the Prime Cabinet Secretary. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your comments, and also indicating that you have already led on austerity measures. I want to say that we concur with you, at least I do, that this is really unprecedented, because it's the first time in the history of Kenya that a supplementary estimate is coming into place barely a month after the new financial year comes into force. So we are truly living in completely uncharted waters, and therefore this calls for very tough measures. We'll give an outline from the Treasury perspective, and we've shared a document with everybody. There are some areas where there's concurrence, I'm sure, with what the committee has established, and there could be areas where there could be some variance. And I believe that the purpose of this meeting is to be able to enable us to close ranks before you make the final presentation to Parliament. I will take the members through this document so that we follow as I make comments, and then where necessary, definitely I have my technical team led by the PS. They'll be able to delve deeper into some specific areas that maybe require a more detailed clarification. But on a lighter note, Mr. Chairman, before I start making my formal presentation, I think, let me just put it on record, that I'm acting in so many ministries, but I want to assure Kenyans I'm not earning any acting allowance. Because tough times call for austerity measures. So I think it should go on record that that is the position. So, Mr. Chairman, let me just draw members to page 2 of the document. Here we say that the National Treasury prepared the financial year 2024-25 supplementary estimates number 1 in accordance with Article 223 of the Constitution and Section 40 of the Public Finance Management Act, Cap 412A. The focus, Mr. Chairman, of this financial year supplementary estimates is to align the budget to the revised fiscal framework following the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. Mr. Chairman, I'm sure members are aware that the National Assembly considered and approved the financial year 2024-25 expenditures, which were contained in the National Assembly Appropriations Bill number 34 of 2024, and His Excellency the President assented to it. The budget was to be funded through additional revenue measures amounting to Kenya shillings 344.3 billion, which were contained in the Finance Bill 2024, which everybody now knows that the President declined to assent to, resulting in a financing gap of similar amounts. And the reasons for his decline are well known to all Kenyans. So he did decline to assent to that bill. In view of this, the Treasury has prepared the financial year 2024 supplementary estimates, number 1, to cut down on planned activities and projects to close the financing gap of the said figure of 344.3 billion and to align the budget to the revised fiscal framework. Mr. Chairman, the proposed realignment covers quite a number of areas, but let me just flag. As indicated earlier, the withdrawal of the 2024 Finance Bill forced the government to forego an estimated revenue amount of 344.3 billion. The government will nonetheless continue the implementation of the revenue-raising measures contained in the Finance Act of 2023. So the 2024 is out of the way, so we are working on the basis of the 2023 Finance Act. Now, to ensure the expenditures, Mr. Chairman, I'll draw members to page 3, item 7. To ensure that expenditures contained in the financial year 2024-25 Appropriations Act are aligned to the revised fiscal framework, we propose the following measures. 1, expenditure rationalization. 2, adjustment of the projected revenue and borrowing. And 3, to implement policy measures to contain wastage. The rationalization of the budget, Mr. Chairman, calls for the following. The National Treasury proposes to rationalize tax revenue, that is for GK-funded, Government of Kenya-funded expenditures, allocations in the recurrent and development budget for ministries and departments and agencies, including allocations to the constitutional commissions, independent offices, parliament, the judiciary, and shareable allocation to county governments as provided in Table 1 in your document. So basically, Mr. Chairman, I'm affirming your position that everybody is taking a haircut. There's no exception whatsoever. Mr. Chairman, under item 9, on the development budget rationalization, because there's a table there for members to see, but I just want to talk to the points, and then we can come back to the table. We propose to rationalize the Government of Kenya funded development budget by 138.5 billion Kenya shillings, and this includes 8.3 billion from the NGCDF in synchronization with the revised revenue projections, 1 billion from Parliament, and 800 million from the judiciary. And at 10, we list some of the proposed development budget cuts. They will include some of these, not all, but we're just listing some. And there, Mr. Chairman, you will notice that we are going to have to slash 14.6 billion for electrification of public facilities. That is the last mile item. We will have to slash 14.1 billion from the roads, 6.5 billion from water, sanitation, and irrigation projects, 6.5 billion from the police modernization project, 5.2 billion from the school infrastructure improvement, 3.3 billion for university infrastructure, 3.3 billion for settlement of the landless, 3.1 billion for construction and equipping of TVET institutes, and 2 billion from the Hustlers Fund. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm just flagging this because the haircut that we are taking calls for very tough measures, some of them unpleasant, but we have to do that. In terms of additional expenditures, we have proposed additional allocations for critical government programs in the financial year 2025, as indicated on paragraph 11, and you have touched on some of them. 2 billion for coffee debts, 1 billion for sugarcane farmers reforms, 500 million Kenya shillings for KCC factories to support the milk, 500 million for the tree planting programs, 450 million for the leather factory, Kenene leather factory, and 200 million for Hyde's Fund. Mr. Chairman, on paragraph 12, we also indicate that we close the year, financial year 2023-2024, with some carryovers amounting to 218.5 billion. And out of this amount, we propose to factor 68.1 billion in the financial year 2024-25. That means we are bringing it back into that. And this will cover 23.8 billion for pensions and gratuities, 30.8 billion for transfer to counties, and 13.5 billion for the NGCDF. Mr. Chairman, in view of the above adjustments in the development budget, some of the key areas to be funded in the financial year 2024-25 development budget are also provided in Table 2. So that gives the detail, and the total amount we are talking of is 203 billion Kenya shillings, 203.3 billion Kenya shillings. Now, Mr. Chairman, to realize the above-mentioned realignment, the fiscal framework for the financial year 2024-25 budget has also been revised in the following manner. And I draw members to page 8, which deals with the revenue projections. Paragraph 15, the total revenue, including appropriations in aid, has been revised to 3,057.4 billion. That is 3 trillion, basically, which amounts to 16.9% of GDP. And it comprises of ordinary revenues of 2.6 trillion and A&A of about 425 or 26 billion. The point figures are there. The review of the revenues has taken into account the base effect arising from the outcome of the collections in the financial year 2023 to 24, and then withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024 and impact of the Withdrawn Land Act Amendment Bill, because that has also been withdrawn. The revised revenue projections also include additional revenue expected to come from the extension of the ongoing tax amnesty. We project that we could raise up to 30 billion from the ongoing tax amnesty. And then we hope to raise by winding down 47 state-owned enterprises, we could raise 7.3 billion Kenya shillings. And then we also realize that there'll be an impact of an increase in road maintenance levy, where we can raise close to 32 billion, which we propose to accrue to the exchequer. The net of these adjustments are also indicated on the table below, that is table 3. But basically, what we are beginning to bring out is that the impact of the withdrawal of the finance bill is extremely heavy on us as a country. Now, what are the expenditure projections? On paragraph 17, our projections have been revised to 3.8 trillion. That is 21.4% of GDP. And this comprises a recurrent of about 2.8 billion, 15.7% of GDP, and the development of expenditure now drops to Kenya shillings 579 billion. That is only 3.2% of GDP. That, Mr. Chairman, is the development expenditure, just 3.2% of GDP. That is a very, very big hit. The total allocation of shareable revenue to county government is projected at 410.9 billion Kenya shillings. That is 2.3% of GDP, which is inclusive of the 30.8, the carryover that I referred to. And then we have an allocation to the contingency fund of 4 billion. Mr. Chairman, at paragraph 18, because you will notice that the expenditure, even though we have gone cut back, but there's a financing deficit that is now arising. This fiscal deficit, including grants, has been revised to Kenya shillings 761 billion, that is 4.2% of GDP, in the financial year 2024-2025. Before the withdrawal of the Finance Act, the projection here was about 3.2% of GDP as the fiscal deficit, but now it has had to widen. This fiscal deficit will be financed by net borrowing of 356.4 billion, that is 2% of GDP, and net domestic borrowing of 404.6 billion, 2.2% of GDP. The overall gross change in the financial year 2024-25 national government budget, Mr. Chairman, again is indicated in Table 4. The overall gross change in the financial year 2024-25 budget is a reduction of 121.8 billion, which reflects 1.9%, which is within the provisions of Article 223 of the Constitution. Mr. Chairman, your committee, through you, raised some very specific questions to be responded to. And now, under page 10, I want to try and just briefly summarize. The detail is in the document, but I'll try and summarize the highlights of the questions that you did raise. This was while inviting us to comment on these supplementary estimates. So question number 1 was, what are the growth prospects for the financial year 2024-25 amid the prevailing uncertain economic environment? Mr. Chairman, the Kenyan economy is currently unwinding from the effects of negative and persistent global domestic shocks that have pushed the economy to its lowest activity level. The shocks included COVID-19 pandemic and effects of climate change, from the prolonged drought in 2021 to the floods in 2024. These shocks escalated the cost of essential household commodities. They also pushed up fuel prices and led to a rapid depreciation of the Kenya shilling exchange rate, thus piling pressure on public debt. Mr. Chairman, through focused policy interventions and structural reforms, the government efforts have started to yield some positive results. The economy grew by 5.6% in 2023, up from 4.9% in 2022, a demonstration of resilience and the sustenance of economic recovery. This growth momentum has continued into 2024, with the economy expanding by 5% in the first quarter, and it is projected to grow by 5.5% by the end of the year. This growth is largely driven by a strong rebound in the agricultural sector, which benefited from favorable weather conditions after 2 years of severe droughts. Additionally, service sectors remained resilient, with tourism, transport, real estate, financial, and ICT services supporting growth. Private domestic demand is expected to remain resilient, even as the public sector consolidates further, while providing support for government initiatives aimed to benefit people at the bottom of the income pyramid. Mr. Chairman, this strong growth will be reinforced by ongoing interventions under the bottom-up economic transformation. The better objectives are bringing down the cost of living, eradicating hunger, creating jobs, expanding the tax base, improving foreign exchange balances, and inclusive growth. The MTP4 adopted a value chain approach with the better core pillars and key enablers clustered under 5 sectors, that is finance and production, infrastructure, social, environment and natural resources, and governance and public administration. Economic growth over the medium term will be driven by raising agricultural productivity, transforming the micro, small, and medium enterprise economy, increasing investment in housing and settlement, strengthening healthcare through universal health coverage, and investing in the digital superhighway and creative economy. Mr. Chairman, let me draw members to paragraph 25. That is on inflation. Inflation is now firmly under control at 4.6% in June 2024 from 7.9% in 2023 and a peak of 9.6% in October 2022 due to easing of food and energy prices. The appreciating shilling produced a strong pass-through effect to lower domestic prices, supported by a tight monetary policy stance and interventions by government in providing subsidized fertilizer and seeds, which continue to lower the cost of food production, but also revitalize agricultural production. Inflation is projected to remain within the target band over the medium term. Mr. Chairman, as you know, the target band is between 2.5 up to 7.5. Tight monetary policy to stabilize inflation has led to rising interest rates and a slowdown in the growth of the private sector credit. The interbank rate increased to 13.3% in June 2024, compared to 9.6% in June 2023, while the 91-day Treasury bills rate increased to 16% from 11.5% over the same period, thereby increasing the cost of borrowing by government from the domestic market. So, Mr. Chairman, the flip side is that when we don't have revenue, then government has to borrow. So the interest rates are beginning to rise in the domestic market because now the government is beginning to re-enter into that space. Commercial bank lending to the private sector declined to grow by 4.5% in April 2024 and 7.9% in March 2024, down from 13.2% in March 2023. This has had negative effects on private sector activities. The consequences of fighting supply-driven inflation is that it has negative effects on economic vibrancy in the short term. So basically, we are living in a dangerous situation where we are beginning to slow down the private sector from a trajectory that was picking up. Mr. Chairman, the current account balance or the current account deficit improved to 3.9% of GDP in the 12 months to April 2024, down from 4.7% of GDP in a similar period in 2023. And this was supported by 7.7% decline in goods imported, reflecting lower imports across all categories except machinery and transport equipment. Here you can also say that we benefited from the increased food production, and therefore there was less of food imports. Our exports increased by 2.9%, reflecting increased exports of agricultural commodities and re-exports. Mr. Chairman, tourism receipts rebounded faster than anticipated to their pre-COVID-19 levels. Tourist arrivals improved by 27.2% in the 12 months to March 2024, compared to a similar period in 2023. So that was a real good show from the tourism sector. Mr. Chairman, remittances increased by 12.8% to US dollars 4.5 billion in the 12 months to May 2024, compared to 3.997 billion over a similar period in 2023. This increased forex inflows into the country. Some went to investment, while others supported household consumption. That means there's a very strong growth in the diaspora remittances. Mr. Chairman, tight policies and flexible exchange rates, coupled with initiatives to attract foreign direct investment and enhance export performance, are anticipated to help stabilize the current account deficit around 4% of GDP in the medium term. So whatever we do, we must make sure that we are not chasing away foreign direct investment as a nation. Mr. Chairman, our foreign exchange reserves, the official foreign exchange reserves, which stood at 7.8 billion US dollars, that is an import cover of 4 months, 4.1 to be precise, was available up to May 2024. And this continues to provide adequate cover and a buffer against any short-term shocks in the foreign exchange market. The exchange rate to the dollar has stabilized in the range of 128 to 131 since February 2024. The exchange rate to the dollar stood at 129.5 by end June 2024, from an all-time high of 160.8 by end of January 2024. Through the repayment of the 2024 Eurobond, the government successfully removed the investor uncertainty, and market perception improved significantly. The appreciation and stability of the exchange rate has created confidence and triggered inflows of foreign direct investment